The haunted graveyard. The wind whispered through the branches of the ancient trees surrounding the graveyard, creating an eerie symphony of rustling leaves. Jake, Sarah, and Mike stood at the edge of town, peering into the darkness that swallowed the cemetery. Legends and rumors swirled around the small town of Ravenwood, filling the air with an unsettling sense of mystery. The moon hid behind a thick blanket of clouds, casting an ominous shadow over the graveyard's iron gates. Sarah's fingers trembled as she clutched her flashlight tightly. Her eyes fixed on the graveyard's entrance. "Are we really going in there?" she asked, her voice quivering with a mix of fear and excitement. Jake, known for his adventurous spirit, took a step forward. "Come on, guys," he said, his voice filled with a mix of bravado and curiosity. "We've heard all the stories, but nobody has ever dared to see if they're true. Let's find out what secrets this place holds." Mike hesitated, his gaze flickering nervously between his friends and the dark graveyard. He swallowed hard, finally giving in to their collective curiosity. "All right," he agreed reluctantly. "But let's stick together and be careful. We don't know what we might find in there." With their hearts pounding, the trio crossed the threshold of the graveyard's gates. As they stepped onto the sacred ground, a chill ran down their spines. And a profound silence enveloped them. The air grew heavy with an indescribable presence, and the moonless night seemed to amplify the sound of their own breathing. They began their exploration, the beams of their flashlights piercing through the gloom, illuminating the crumbling tombstones and weathered mausoleums. The gravestones bore the names of those long departed, their epitaphs etched into the stone with fading letters. As they ventured deeper into the graveyard, Sarah's gaze was drawn to a peculiar tombstone, standing alone amidst the sea of forgotten souls. Its weathered surface seemed to emanate an otherworldly aura. Intrigued, she approached it cautiously, her footsteps crunching on the gravel. The inscription on the tombstone sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "Here lies Edgar Blackwood, feared by the living and the dead." The name triggered a memory within her, a tale whispered in hushed tones by the town's elders. Legend had it that Edgar Blackwood was a man of darkness, a recluse who had lived a tortured existence. Rumors spread that he had made a pact with malevolent spirits, trading his humanity for power and immortality. The townsfolk believed that his spirit still lingered in the graveyard, vengeful and restless. Curiosity mingled with unease as the trio gathered around the tombstone, their breaths forming faint clouds in the chilly night air. Shadows danced and swayed around them, casting eerie silhouettes on the ground. The atmosphere grew charged, as if the graveyard itself held its breath, waiting for something to happen. Unbeknownst to them, the spirits of the graveyard stirred in response to their presence. Whispers echoed through the night, carried by the wind, as if warning them to leave. But the allure of the unknown was too strong, compelling them to press on, ignorant of the darkness they were about to awaken. As they exchanged nervous glances, Sarah's hand reached out, almost involuntarily, to touch the cold surface of the tombstone. In that instant, a bone-chilling gust of wind swept through the graveyard, extinguishing their flashlights in an instant. In the pitch-black darkness, the group froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. The veil between the world of the living and the realm of the dead seemed to thin, as if a gateway to the supernatural had been opened. Suddenly, an otherworldly moan filled the air, growing louder and more menacing with each passing second. Panic set in, and the teenagers fumbled in the darkness, desperately trying to relight their flashlights. Before they could find their bearings, a blinding light pierced through the blackness, illuminating the graveyard in an eerie glow. They turned to face the source, their eyes widening in terror. There, standing before them, was a figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes burning like embers. The entity emanated a malevolent energy that sent waves of fear coursing through their bodies. It was the vengeful spirit of Edgar Blackwood, awakened from its eternal slumber. The night had taken a sinister turn, and their mere presence had triggered the wrath of the restless spirits within the graveyard. Jake, Sarah, and Mike found themselves caught in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. As the blinding light from the vengeful spirit of Edgar Blackwood filled the graveyard, Jake, Sarah, and Mike stumbled backward, their hearts racing in their chests. The presence of the malevolent entity seemed to suffocate them, its aura radiating pure malice. In the midst of their fear, a bone-chilling scream echoed through the night. They turned to find Mike missing, his voice swallowed by the swirling darkness. Frantically calling out his name, they strained their eyes through the thick mist, searching for any sign of their friend. The graveyard transformed before their eyes. Shadows twisted and contorted, morphing into grotesque shapes that seemed to dance in the ethereal light. Whispers filled the air, a haunting chorus of voices, layered with despair and anguish. The once silent atmosphere had become a cacophony of spectral murmurs and moans. Driven by a mix of desperation and determination, Jake, Sarah, and Mike pushed forward, their senses heightened as they ventured deeper into the cursed graveyard. Each step felt like a weight upon their souls, as if the very ground beneath them conspired to keep them trapped within its boundaries. They passed rows upon rows of tombstones, each one telling a story of a life long gone. The spirits of the deceased seemed to watch them, their hollow gazes following their every move. It was as if the graveyard itself had become a living entity, feeding off their fear and luring them further into its malevolent grasp. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a dilapidated mausoleum, its stone structure weathered by time and neglect. The heavy iron door creaked open, inviting them inside with an unholy presence. Hesitant but driven by the need to find their missing friend, they took a collective breath and stepped into the foreboding darkness. Inside the mausoleum, a cold draft welcomed Jake, Sarah, and Mike, carrying whispers that seemed to originate from the very walls. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and a dim, flickering light emitted an eerie glow, revealing crypts and coffins lining the chamber. As their eyes adjusted to the gloom, they spotted a dusty crypt at the center of the chamber. It beckoned them with an unseen force, drawing their attention to an ancient book resting upon a stone pedestal. Covered in cobwebs, the book seemed untouched by time, its pages brittle and yellowed. Driven by a mixture of desperation and curiosity, Sarah carefully picked up the book, her fingers trembling as she brushed away the dust. The text within revealed the tragic life of Edgar Blackwood, an outcast tormented by his own desires and the darkness that consumed him. The book spoke of his obsession with forbidden knowledge and his fateful pact with a malevolent spirit. It described the cursed nature of the graveyard itself, an enchanted prison that held countless tormented souls. In death, Edgar Blackwood sought to claim the souls of the living as his own, perpetuating his vengeful reign. As the weight of the revelation settled upon them, a bone-chilling presence materialized before them. It was the spirit of Edgar Blackwood, his form ethereal and twisted, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly fire. With a voice that echoed from beyond the grave, he declared that their intrusion had awakened him from his eternal slumber, and he vowed to claim their souls as retribution. Fear gripped Jake, Sarah, and Mike, their hearts pounding in their chests. But within the pages of the ancient book, they found a glimmer of hope. It contained an incantation, a spell that weakened the spirits bound to the graveyard. Clutching the book tightly, they summoned their courage and began reciting the words, their voices trembling but resolute. As the incantation filled the mausoleum, the malevolent spirit of Edgar Blackwood convulsed in pain. His haunting wails pierced the air, echoing throughout the cursed graveyard. The walls of the mausoleum trembled, and cracks formed in the ancient stone. Realizing they had seized a moment of weakness, Jake, Sarah, and Mike made a daring escape from the crumbling mausoleum, their hearts racing with adrenaline. Gasping for breath, they emerged from the graveyard's iron gates, leaving behind the vengeful spirit of Edgar Blackwood. Though they had survived their encounter, they knew the cursed graveyard would continue to draw unsuspecting victims into its clutches, forever feeding the insatiable hunger of the restless spirits that dwelled within. They made a pact to warn others about the dangers that lurked within, vowing to protect their town from the ancient malevolence that haunted Ravenwood.